Even so, the climber is drawn irresistibly upward, mind and spirit pulling the body through a series of struggles, through avalanche and storm, against the unbearable cold, to the 10th highest peak in the world. First to scale Annapurna I was the 1950 French team. Planting his feet on the summit, an exuberant, exhausted Maurice Herzog became a national hero. Never before had man climbed a 26,000-foot peak. 20 years later, a team of Britons scaled the precipitous south face, then the hardest climb in history. By the Dutch victory in 1977, 8 men had reached the summit, but 8 others had died in the attempt. Against those odds, the first Americans and the first women. North of India, south of China, the Himalayan kingdom of Nepal. The American team arrives in the capital city of Kathmandu. It's an ancient city within the world's only officially Hindu nation. The all-woman team of 10 climbers in age range from 20 to 50. In professional life, from surgeon to student, from carpenter to chemist. If even one can stand on the top of Annapurna, all the others will share in that experience. 2 years of organization and training have led to this moment. Leading the expedition is Himalayan veteran Arlene Bloom of Berkeley, California. To reach the summit of Annapurna, each climber will have to carry a share of the load.
Take it off. Come on, I want to put these on. Here, just turn around. I think it's becoming. Becoming what?
And so begins the first stage of the trip. 10 climbers, a base camp manager, and 2 filmmakers. A 4-hour bus ride is stretched into a grueling 11-hour ordeal. At Pokhara, 300 Nepalese men and women hope to be taken on as porters to the base of the mountain. The climbers begin their complex task of organizing a small army. Now, a journey of 11 days. 80 miles to the base of Annapurna. Up and down thousands of feet of steep, muddy trails, and hiking up to 10 hours a day in the monsoon, moving deeper into the territory of the unseen mountain. Annapurna is the goddess of the harvest, and here, far below, she evokes a special sense of life. The nighttime storms make the countryside lush by day. Each evening, a new campsite. On the team is plant ecologist Vera Komarkova, attempting to collect one of every type of plant that grows in this vicinity.
Well, I'm pressing plants that I collected along the way, and it is going to be for a vegetation study and maybe a phytogeographic study.
For several hours each night, they set up a makeshift clinic. In charge is Piero Kramar, an eye surgeon acting as team physician, assisted by nursing student Annie Whitehouse. Piero hasn't practiced this kind of medicine for a long while, but she adapts to the job of treating hundreds of porters each day. The swollen rivers give advance warning of snowfalls on the mountain far above. The bridges carry them over rivers that cut between the mountains. The climbers move across the grain of the land, up and down steep passes where many travelers have previously fallen. And because the porters know full well the cold, wet conditions ahead, some have already dropped out. The rest will go on. By now, all the established trails have disappeared. There's only a narrow shepherd's path, reducing the climbers to mere specks on the hillside. Now a rise up 3,000 feet of wild vegetation and thick mud to the jungle camp. More porters desert, enough so that the entire expedition could fail to reach base camp. Crucial decisions must be made. An advance party of 3 climbers and 60 porters will go ahead to establish the base camp. Among them is Himalayan veteran Alison Chadwick of England. At 35, Alison has already climbed nearly as high as Annapurna, and higher than anyone else on the team. The next day, the main party reaches the French pass that was pioneered by Herzog's team. For the first time, they can see Annapurna. Each step of the way is still precarious, but the determined climbers finally arrive at their goal, the base camp at 14,500 feet. They're drenched by the rain, but high in spirit.
Gosh, isn't that exciting?
It was just about noise.
Above the base camp is the snow-covered Great Barrier guarding Annapurna. While climbing teams establish camps up on the mountain, the base is like home. It's also a strategy center for coordination of supplies and equipment. For those heading upward, the diet consists of fresh local food, freeze-dried rations, and candy bars.
We thought this would be half of this is one person's day worth of marzipan. So, I can't think about this stuff.
So you need 4.
Several parties people have been killed, and Camp 2 has been wiped out.
Right.
But Dutch had Camp 2 lower down in Icefall. You see, it's protected by enormous
For safety,
crowds.
survival, and success, strategy is everything. Ice avalanches frequently break off a large sickle-shaped glacier. The climbers will have to cross below it to reach a rib first climbed by the Dutch.
Very dangerous.
No, I think that's the safest.
Arlene Bloom, age 33, a biochemist at the University of California at Berkeley. She studies environmental chemicals that may cause cancer. Arlene is a marathon runner and has been on 10 other major expeditions. She trained for Annapurna by carrying 60-pound packs up steep California hills. Organizing the first major all-woman American expedition to the Himalayas has been her dream for 6 years.
By having an all-women's expedition, we're first of all giving 10 women a chance to climb a high mountain, and presumably these women will enjoy it and then may organize other expeditions that women will be able to go on. And we're also making the point that women are strong enough and do have the ability to do these sorts of things.
Liz Klobasicki.
I mean, the reason I came along was because I thought that organizing an all-women's thing would relieve some of the dependency that at least some of us in say, the middle generation have developed from having climbed with men to begin with. I've had such a long sense of being dependent on someone better to do a climb for me. Even though technically I've done some rather difficult things, I just felt the need to take some of the responsibility, or most of it myself, and to do this with people who are about equals. I think it's providing a real chance for growth for a lot of us, for all of us.
Along with Alison Chadwick, Liz sets out to establish the first of 5 campsites on Annapurna.
Be back today.
The camps will be like steps on a giant zigzagging pyramid on the way to the summit. First, they will wind their way through the glacier, then up a steep ice fall to Camp 1. Still transporting food and equipment, all the climbers slowly adjust to the high-altitude environment. With the mind always focused on the summit, the body transforms itself and adapts as the climber moves steadily upward.
The mountain is on a vaster scale than I think I imagined.
There's a feeling now of harmony with the mountain, although its size is an unfolding wonder. At 43, the mother of 2, Irene Miller is an accomplished cellist. By profession, she's a physicist at IBM in San Jose, California. She makes a constant effort to stay in condition for soccer, marathon running, and extensive climbing around the world. At base camp, Vera Watson helps coordinate the timing for movement of supplies. They play a logistical chess game with the mountain. Of the 10 women, teams of 2 or 3 will attempt to summit one after another. But for any pair to make it, the entire expedition must carry loads day after day, moving back and forth between the 5 high camps. Liz Klavasicki and Alison Chadwick return from having established the first one.
Took us 4 hours and a quarter. We put 2 bits of fixed line up on the way, which took a long time, and we took a lot of pictures. So it's really not very far. About 3 hours if you keep going.
How high was it? Did you look at your
16,400. We were there at 2 o'clock, Camp 1, at 16,400 feet.
Vera Watson and 2 others will climb still higher, moving loads upward.
Now, today, we'll have a group, which will include me and Annie and Piero. We're going to go up there, sleep, set up more tents, and tomorrow morning start working on the route between Camp 1 and 2. Now, okay, Camp 1 is on the left-hand side of the glacier. And to get to Camp 2, you have to traverse a flat area of the glacier, which is very, very crevassed. And some of the crevasses are very long. And so what we'll spend most of the day wandering around, finding a route around the crevasses, and we'll cross the glacier and then start up on the right-hand side of the glacier to a place where we'll place Camp 2. And of course, we're all very, very excited. It is exciting to be up and working on the mountain. And,
Vera was one of the early organizers of the expedition. She's a computer scientist at the IBM research facility in San Jose. At 45, she works hard to stay in top physical shape. As part of her training, she and other team members made practice climbs on Berkeley's Indian Rock. Vera made the first solo ascent by a woman of Argentina's Mount Aconcagua, the highest peak in this hemisphere.
You are roped with a companion, and much better three.
At base camp, 50-year-old Joan Fiery stays with the expedition despite an attack of pneumonia. She brings to the group 25 years of experience as a climber.
So 3 on a glacier is definitely the safest. You can travel 4 too. It begins to get more awkward the more number of people because of traveling at the same speed, because the other most important thing about your rope is that it is stretched out between you, and this is probably the hardest thing to do.
After several days, the return of Piero Cremar, Annie Whitehouse, and Vera Watson. They have carried loads up to 18,500 feet and established Camp 2.
Oh, I told you look better.
She gave us a lesson this morning, though, on crevasse walking.
I did it sitting down.
I can give you a lesson on crevasse falling.
Oh, tell us about that.
I saw 2 wands marking. I looked at the wands, I looked down there, I go, oh, it's a crevasse. And I see these footprints going across it, so I stepped right in the footprints like I was walking on eggshells. Boom!
Annie's safe return triggers a welcome release of emotion.
Yeah. And then I thought it was pretty funny at first, and I go, oh, I fall in a crevasse. And then I just tried to squiggle out, and then I went deeper in.
Then she looked down.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
Oh, really?
It went way, way down.
Marty, look out!
The avalanche had begun at 24,000 feet, yet its effects are felt here at base camp nearly 2 miles below. The heavy monsoon is causing slides all over the mountain. In their frequency and power, they surpass avalanches of previous years. On some mountains, climbers can escape avalanches early in the day, but on this one, no time is safe. Already this season, 5 climbers in Nepal have died. Meanwhile, Joan Fiery has been building back the strength that was sapped by pneumonia.
Working on conditioning after being sick for 18 days. Yesterday is the first day I started. Today's the second day. I'll go for 20 minutes now. I did 10 minutes this morning before breakfast. Yesterday I went twice, once for 7 minutes in the morning and then 10 minutes in the afternoon. Each day I'll do a little bit more.
In Seattle, Washington, Joan is a physical therapist specializing in sports medicine. After extensive climbing in the Pacific Northwest, as well as in Mexico and Peru, Joan has brought to the Annapurna team her invaluable experience. As an artist, she expressed the lonely bleakness and beauty that mountaineers can feel, but seldom describe. 1 out of 10 climbers who go to the Himalayas never return. The team members accept this, and by tradition, there is need for prayer. The Buddhist ritual is carried out by Sherpas, a tribe of people in Nepal whose bodies are specially adapted so they can live at high altitudes. Meanwhile, for Arlene, there's the growing pressure of a leader's responsibility. And for each of the others, as they wait, there's a build-up of anxiety and anticipation. Tensions have developed inside each climber. There is a need to share thoughts and feelings, and so they get together.
We have a major decision is just try to get as many groups as possible together.
They try to express their fears and doubts, to talk out the differences among them, to relieve the stress.
Most of us have forgotten how hard a job Arlene has, and I don't think we're giving her adequate support. She's getting pressures from not just us, but many other directions too, every day for hours.
I think
I think all of us owe it to her to try to do a little bit better.
Although I do feel the decision-making process in a large group would be easier even
It
for
will
you,
ease
Arlene.
her about the thing, yeah, if we can discuss it together. But
And that would take some of the weight off.
Yes,
And
that's
I'm
well
sort
put.
of bummed out of groups, and I offered to resign if that's all right.
You mean you just want to quit and go home?
I can't cope with it.
What would make it possible for you to cope?
I guess if the group were happier, it might be easier.
To think in terms of 13 people is very difficult, so that one person or another does not feel excluded. I'm sure that you felt that. I was so bummed out, I was ready to leave. I felt that way, extremely depressed for, a week and a half. It's all our own little frailties, but we all have them.
I would say that this is...
As teammates and friends, they find strength and unity in the freedom to speak out to each other. Problems are vanquished by gestures of support.
Irene, I'd be very sad if you left. I want you here.
No one in this group harbors ill for anybody else.
It's not for me, it's just the whole attitude.
I see.
It wasn't even directed at me, it's just the sound of it. I think it was when we were sitting up there in Camp 2 and you two came in complaining bitterly about the fixed ropes.
If I saw it as constructive criticism, it was because I'm afraid. And if I see something that could mean a matter of life and death if you fall off a fixed rope, then I blow up first. And it's a mistake maybe not to stop and think, how can I do this most constructively so no one's hurt? And I'm very sorry. If the way I came across.
I didn't remember it being... That's all I remember. That's not the one thing that's bothering me.
I know.
No, that is an example.
Perhaps before people get upset about a particular incident or something, go to the person.
I feel
If
hurt.
somebody does something to me, I should go to them and say, what you did makes me feel hurt.
I feel
I said I feel hurt, but I have to tell you why I feel hurt.
Okay,
And I am a
okay.
little annoyed that you keep pointing at me too right now. I am
Okay,
bothered by that.
I'm sorry. I understood you.
I understood you to say that you...
The group discussion has worked. Now the challenge is expressed for all by Alison Chadwick.
Well, I think the challenge of the mountain hasn't started yet. We haven't really got to the mountain yet. We're still at its feet. And we're going to start laboriously crawling up its flank in the next few days. I think that's going to be challenging, and I think that we're going to need strength and courage and reserves that haven't been called upon yet.
High above Annapurna's glacier, the crucial second camp is at 18,500 feet. But the summit is still much farther above, at an altitude of 26,545 feet. Above Camp 2 are tons of ice and snow that could break loose and bury the climbers at any moment. 7 previous deaths occurred here. And as if on schedule, a blinding, overpowering storm arrives.
This is Camp 1 calling Camp 2, over. We feel that you should come down, that the storm could last several days, in which case you would be exposed to continual avalanche danger at Camp 2. We really do want to come down, Eileen, but we're quite worried about it. Over. Does it seem possible that one could hit the camp, or you feel it's quite safe? Over. Certainly it's possible that one could hit the camp. Over.
The climbers at Camp 2 must temporarily retreat. At base camp below, the others can only wait and hope for their safe return. Hours pass with no word. The climbers from Camp 2 finally come into sight, skirting the glacier and making their way down its side.
We're proof from being scared from Camp 2 this morning. This is peanuts compared to what's at Camp 2. There's that much new snow and avalanches all over. And spin drift from all the avalanches coming down on your tent every 20 minutes. God. Sat there huddled and thinking, is it safer to sit tight or is it more dangerous to go down through the avalanche chute? Good to be home.
Hello. I mean, this isn't the most delightful place, but I guess it's better than any other place.
It's better than Camp 2, you can believe me. I was out at 5 o'clock
This morning?
shoveling away snow, yeah. And suddenly there was a hurricane. Just, you know, it was...
You knew what it was?
I didn't at first.
Really?
No, I didn't realize.
Oh.
I thought it was just a wild wind, but then I realized later that it was an avalanche, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just plastered me in snow. It was just...
The storm settles, and the team prepares to move back up to re-establish the second camp. It will be the staging area for the rest of the climb. But reaching Camp 3 is the critical step. The path lies directly across an avalanche chute, down which the ice and snow could roar unpredictably, and does so at all hours of the day and night, making no time safer than another. And now a 1,500-foot, nearly vertical wall of snow-covered ice up the precipitous side of the Dutch Rib. At last, the true magnitude of Annapurna begins to be revealed. Its ice towers riddled with caverns dwarf the climbers. The chore is not only to climb, but to carry. A test of willpower and endurance. Inching up the tail of a giant beast, up to the crest of the Dutch Rib. One wrong step, and they will plummet down. At times, the crest is only 6 inches across, with 1,000-foot drops on either side. 3,500 feet of fixed rope is attached to the mountain as a lifeline. And the rib itself becomes a steep highway for the grueling movement of supplies. Upward, seemingly without end. And as if the climb itself were not enough.
That's right. Yeah, I've always really been afraid of avalanches, or not always, but for about 5 or 6 years. Until about 5 or 6 years ago, I thought mountains were most beautiful, happy places in the world, and that only good things happen on mountains. You made friends, and you really felt good and got strong, and it was really enjoyable. And then about 5 years ago, a boyfriend of mine was killed in an avalanche, along with my college roommate and 2 other close friends, and all of a sudden my whole view of mountains changed. After that great big avalanche the other day, I really felt like going home, you know. I mean, avalanches that big, there's nothing you can do about them, and they seem to come any time of the day or night, and they're irrational.
But the team must carry loads day after day, through the avalanche chute and up the rib.
I said, I just feel a tremendous sense of responsibility for all the people who are doing these carries, and I guess that's why I feel like I have to do them too, even when I'm terrified of it, because we've all got to do them if we're going to climb the mountain. And as long as the group decision is to keep trying to get to the summit, that's what we'll do, and just pray that the avalanches leave us alone for 2 weeks.
The 2 top camps on the mountain will be supplied by provisions brought to Camp 3. The climbers carry their 30-pound loads up, then must go back down the rib and through the avalanche chute for more. The painful, exhausting movement of supplies begins to take on its own rhythm. Movement and breath, followed by movement and breath. They work against the freezing cold and ever-thinning air. The best tactic is to focus solely on the effort to keep moving. For each climber, it's a lonely personal struggle with herself. Progress is steady, but then once more Annapurna pushes them back. Another storm piles up new snow as if to feed the avalanches that are already building. And again, the perilous retreat, all the way back down to Camp 1.
Hi.
Hi, Marie.
Hi there.
I intend to live single all the days of my life.
So we had lunch at that Chinese place.
That was good. God, I'd die. I'd take anything to eat upset right now.
Oh, don't mention food.
Chinese smorgasbord. I'm giving up on dinner.
Yeah, my feet are getting cold.
Colder.
Colder. Colder. I think now they'll never warm up. There's a cat with a mournful eye, high above him there's a swallow, swiftly winging through the sky. How the winds are laughing, they laugh with Watermark. Laugh the whole day through and half the summer's night.
The long delay means that Liz Klobosicki must leave the expedition before the summit attempt to return to her teaching job. The others will have to continue the climb without her. The furious storm subsides, and the climbers move back up the Dutch rib to re-establish the 3rd camp. They plow up through heavy new snow, then up a steep ice wall, and make their way across a plateau of jagged ice to Camp 4 at 24,200 feet. Climbing the wall requires care and dexterity and stamina. The steep chimneys and walls must be fixed with a series of ice screws for protection. Besides themselves, the climbers must haul up the all-important loads of supplies. It's a laborious struggle to gain just inches at a time. The jagged plateau is like a series of mammoth ocean waves frozen in place all the way up. From below, the climbers are virtually invisible as they gain Camp 4. Just one camp below them is a recovered Joan Fiery. Through sheer determination, she helps the others move into position for the summit. At such high altitudes, they lose their appetites and must force themselves to eat. In the freezing, thin air, the human body deteriorates until each small task requires extreme effort. Only the essential supplies are brought up to the 5th camp, the launching area for the final 2,400-foot struggle to the top. 3 women and 3 Sherpas carry loads to the 5th and highest camp. Their efforts make it possible for teams to attempt the summit. The entire expedition now looks upward. Its energy and hopes are placed on 2 members. Along with the summit team, all the climbers face upward to the spot where the only thing higher is the sky. Now the attempt to achieve success for only the 5th time in history will be made by Irene Miller and Vera Komakova. They head for the top with 2 Sherpas. After making it all the way to Camp 5, Pirro discovered that the tip of her index finger had frozen through a small hole in her glove. Being an eye surgeon, she would rather lose the summit than the ability to use her finger. The collective effort of 10 climbers and hundreds of supporters is now focused on 2 women.